You can't base it off nostalgia. It has to be, if you came into my life now, would you be the kind of person that I value to get me to the next level?
You might be hurting behind the scenes, but the people that are hurting you, they don't know they're hurting you. Therefore, they don't know to change or what needs to change or how to be. They don't want to hurt you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode, number 529, where we talked about getting uncomfortable and how it never, ever stops. It was a listener suggestion. Shout out to Karina for that. Today, for episode number 530, we are going to ask you a simple but powerful question. Is now the time to break away from old friends and old friendships? So I have been getting a lot of questions about this. So I was on a call last week, and the person that I was on the call with asked me this question. They said, when you look back in your past and you think about old friends and the situations and how you might have moved on, what would you do the same? What would you do differently? Great question. Love that. I said, honestly, I would go about it in a different way. Alan and I are really focusing now on being kind but truthful and really leaning into our truths. I don't know that I really ever did a good job of that.
Right.
I don't think I ever told my friends how I felt. Or maybe like, hey, I know this is the person that you think I am and you've seen this for a long time, but the person I'm becoming is different. Right? So today we're going to talk about that. Maybe you find yourself outgrowing your friends. Maybe you find yourself drifting away from your friends, your values, your morals, your beliefs, your behaviors, your goals, where you see yourself in 10 years isn't aligned. And as one of my favorite things to say, and this is a question that you have to ask yourself, I asked this person on the phone, I've asked a lot of people this question, are your friends the best from your past or the best for your future? That's what I want you to ask yourself as you're listening to this episode.
This is something that I've struggled with a lot in my life, and something that I still am challenged with. And I think the questions that I try to ask myself, because I'm all for communicating your truth, and that's so important, and it takes courage, because usually you're afraid of the repercussions. You're afraid to lose love. You're afraid to be judged, and we all are. And I think that admitting that admittance factor is the first step. But you cannot express your truth if you don't understand it first. And so first you have to kind of ask yourself questions, and maybe you can journal about it, or here's a few questions that I think would be valuable for everyone to really ask themselves. From 0 to 10, how congruent is this friendship with my highest self? From 0 to 10, how well-developed is this other person?
When you say well-developed, I got a hair somewhere. I got a Tarrant hair in my arm somewhere.
Well, you got to get that.
When you say well-developed, while you answer this, I'm going to fill up my water bottle because it's, I'm SpongeBobbing in here.
Okay, sounds good.
It's getting
You
pretty
need
dry
water,
in here.
Getting kind of dry. Do you want to finish the question before you leave?
Yeah, when you say, what did you say? Out of alignment? What did you say?
No, I said how well-developed.
That's the question.
Okay.
What does that mean?
So
how well-developed when it comes to what?
Personal development. So John Maxwell talks about how people think maturity comes with age, but what he says is that's not true. Sometimes age comes alone. And at the end of the day, you've heard Kevin and I talk about this a lot, but it is just the way it is. You are the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if you're spending a lot of time with people who are not well developed, it is holding you back, whether you're aware of it or not. It just is. And I wish it wasn't the case, but it is. And so if you're out there right now, I think you need to understand which friends are holding you back. And there's something you can learn from everyone, and I'm not saying that you have to cut everyone out of your life. It's not like that, but you do have to gauge. Put it this way. I want you to take 5 people that are friends of yours. They are not all equally aligned. They're not. And you know it. If you're out there listening right now, there's a friend you can think of that is more aligned than the other ones. They're the 10 out of 10 of alignment with you and your highest self. It feels right. You feel understood. You feel heard. You feel valued. You feel like they help you grow. They help you contribute. They help you be a better person. They inspire you to be a better person. There's a question. From 0 to 10, how much does this person, by their own example, make you want to be a better person? If that is not a 10, I would argue that you're spending time with people at the expense of those 10s, because you only have so much time. And the last thing I'll say here about this particular thing is, if you live to 100 years old, you only have 36,500 days on this planet. If you only had $36,500 in your bank account, how carefully would you spend each dollar? How much time are you out there just, I don't want to say wasting, but are you investing that $36,500, those 36,500 days, are you investing them in long-term, meaningful relationships on a trajectory of growth and contribution and love and connection? Or are you appeasing others because you're afraid to lose love? There's a big difference between doing something because it's aligned with your highest self and then doing something because you're afraid to lose love if you don't.
Can you slide the whole thing back just a little bit? Just because it's bouncing when you get animated. I don't know if it'll... No, you're good. I don't know if it'll come up.
Okay.
You got to spin it. Yeah, everything's going to be fine. I find that it's interesting because I think of it this way. Usually people will come to me. Anytime I hear this conversation or somebody brings it up, one of two things happens. You're either... And I'm going to use this term, because it just is one that works, the black sheep. You're that in your group of friends, or somebody else is. There's usually like, okay, there's 5 of us who are into this, 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 and this, and then there's this person. Or I'm the person who isn't into what everybody else is into, right? So like if your friends are all into drinking and partying and you're a fitness coach, and you're an entrepreneur and you have to pay your own bills, that's different. Right? So that's what I've seen is like one person is leading the charge when it comes to personal development and self-improvement, or there's one person who isn't on board with it.
Right.
It's usually that way. Ask yourself that question
But
right
it's
now.
not 100% or 0%.
No.
It's what's the percentage of alignment. And that's the interesting thing. Every moment of every day, you are either a 10 out of 10 of alignment or somewhere in between 0 and 10.
Yeah.
And so, Kev, have you been in rooms with, persons, places, things, and ideas, old friends? What's an old friend that you value and care for genuinely that is not a 10 out of a 10 in alignment for you? And you don't have to say their name, but give me a scenario of a room you were in and paint that picture for me, for the listeners, where you were like, this is not a 10 out of 10 for me. I don't belong here. I don't want to be here anymore. Even though I love this person.
I wonder if for me, I think there's 2 things that happen. Number one, I've been really good at distancing myself from non-10s out of 10s.
Right.
And again, this isn't their intrinsic value. This is just based on my goals and aspirations and ambitions and their ability to help me facilitate that, right? At the end of the day, that's what any relationship has an intention.
Right.
Every relationship does. And
of course,
if you don't think that, then I understand why, because it might sound like it's manipulative. Why is Taryn with me? Why am I with Taryn? There's reasons.
Of course there are.
There's reasons, and I think we have to make sure that your friendships have to fill a reason.
Of course.
You wouldn't stay married to, well, you might.
It has to be a win-win.
Yeah, you don't stay in a relationship because that's the person you've dated for 5 years. That's not why you stay in a relationship.
Right.
It's because this is the person I want to marry.
Right.
Same with your friends. For me, I think I'm really good at distancing myself from people, places, things, and ideas that I don't think necessarily serve me.
Can you give an example?
I mean, I've let go of a lot of people. And I've spoken openly about that. Not that these people aren't good human beings or that I don't have love for them.
Right.
It's just I have a very limited amount of time and I have a very limited amount of relationships that I can juggle at one time. And again, this isn't, let's see, it might not be a... So right now I have 23 text messages, 3 WhatsApp, 6 YouTube notifications, a Facebook notification, and 5 DMs. Like that's just right now. And honestly, that's not a lot.
Right.
Like the text messages are pretty low. I just turned the timer off.
It'll still go on.
Yeah. So for me, it's like there isn't a lot of time for me to just hang out.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people from my old circle wanted to do. They wanted to hang out.
Right.
And that's just when I hang out with Taryn. My only other time I hang out is when I hang out with Matt and play Call of Duty, but we're talking about business and we're talking about finances.
Right.
So I think you have
Or you go to the gym.
Yeah.
But that's not hanging
but
out.
We haven't been lately just because the weeks have been so hectic.
Right.
I've been going all by myself.
Don't want to be
It's hot in here, man. It's going to be all right.
all by myself.
I don't know. I don't think
Thanks, man.
I don't know that I necessarily struggle with that as much as other people.
So why do you believe, so from an outside perspective, why do you believe I struggle with that?
Because one of your biggest fears is losing love, and the more people that love you, because that's what you were basing it off of. I think you were basing a lot of your relationships on how much somebody loved you versus how good they were for your future.
I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is how much I love them. You know, I think that I love people so much that I think that came with a weakness. And I think that weakness is believing that everybody wants to grow and reach their potential. I think that's the new awareness I have. Here's something. Not everyone wants to reach their full potential.
Do you think... Okay. I asked somebody this weekend. I said, when you think of an interaction with somebody else, what is your intention? Is your intention to go deep? Is your intention to connect and build love and connection? Is it quality time? When you would hang out with these people that you love so much, is it you trying to elevate them to the next level? Does part of you feel the responsibility that I have to help these people, I have to lift these people?
I would say, even before I was aware of it, I would say that was running in the background.
Right.
I think my whole life, that's been a common thread for me, where I was always trying to help elevate people. I think I've always spent my entire life trying to help people achieve their goals. And that's why I've gotten so many people jobs and different things like that. And that's also why I got so many referral bonuses when I was at Cognex. I got all my friends from WPI to come work with me. It was cool. But what I didn't realize is that that's not necessarily what others want out of the relationship.
Yeah.
And I've come to learn that now. And so I think it's important for our listeners to identify why you are in the room. Why are you friends with this person now, not 10 years ago? Right? And do you share common goals? Do you share common core values? Do you have beliefs in conflict? Because the only way you're going to reach your full potential is if you have relationships that you learn how to work in perfect harmony. And the reason I say learn is because Kevin and I, whenever we're out of harmony, and Kevin's one of my very best friends.
Yes.
And whenever we're out of harmony, I can feel it. And then we talk. And then we get back into perfect harmony. And I'm taking that approach with all my relationships. But I haven't always been that cognizant of whether or not we were working in perfect harmony. And I would argue that common goals, common core values, common beliefs is how you work in perfect harmony. And if any of those are in conflict, you're going to have to identify that and either say, you know what, maybe this isn't the right friendship for me. But I wonder if we're hyper-conscious, throwback, if we're hyper-conscious of that along the way, you know?
I don't know. I think it's interesting because it's almost like the friendship's going to end eventually anyway. What's a good analogy for this?
Not necessarily end.
It's not going to be what it is.
Right, exactly.
It
will
kind
never
of
be
can't
the
be.
same as what it is right now.
It kind of can't
It has
be.
to evolve either closer or farther.
So I think what I've seen in the past is if there's 4 people that are thinking one way and there's one person who's thinking, well, I want to do this completely differently, the chances of those 4 people adopting that mindset, and again, you don't have to necessarily, but you have to figure out what is the value that I'm getting in this room.
Right.
What is the value? Is it nostalgia? Are these people I like to drink with? If so, is that helping me in the long term? Probably not.
And is that helping the other people I touch? That's the other thing that it goes deeper. So let's say you have 4 friends and they all have a core value of they love to party and you don't. And I've been there, so I completely understand. I'm actually doing everyone I'm not only doing me a disservice by being in that room if it's not aligned for me, I'm doing my future children a disservice. I'm doing my future wife a disservice. I'm doing my business partner Kevin a disservice. I'm doing our listeners a disservice. Every time I appease and go in a room that I don't belong, I've gone as far as to say it's a spiritual obligation. I think fulfillment is if you're unfulfilled after an experience, it's either because you have something to learn or you don't belong in that room. And I've started to really try to gauge, okay, I left that room so fulfilled. Even when Kevin and I have really difficult conversations that are super mentally...
daily at this point.
It still feels fulfilling. Even when I did that sales training and I genuinely got my ass kicked, I felt fulfilled after, even though it hurt. Why? Because I was growing, and I believe I was growing towards my spiritual highest self. And I believe that highest self is what's best for the world now. I didn't always have these beliefs. Now I do. And so now I don't tolerate a lot of people who aren't fully aligned, not because they're bad, but because it's not for me. Not everyone out there is for you. And they're not supposed to, maybe they were on your chapter 2. But in chapter 5, maybe they're not supposed to be there. Maybe they come back in chapter 12.
Right.
You don't know. But I think that every time you're outside of alignment to appease out of fear of losing love, what you're actually doing is losing love for yourself, which is a detriment to your self-esteem, your self-confidence, your self-belief, and your future self.
This is another thing. Imagine if you woke up today and you didn't have any of the memories from your past.
Right.
And you ended up spending time with various people in your life. Would those people be a good reflection of you or not? Would you be like, if Alan came into my life, if he knocked on the door in the studio and said, "Hey, I'm Alan. I heard you guys have a podcast. I'd love to chat." Would I want Alan in my life? Absolutely. Would somebody from my past where maybe they don't have the ambition or the morals or the values or the work ethic or they don't have the mindset that I have, would I still spend time with them?
Right.
Probably not. I think you can't base it off nostalgia. It has to be, if you came into my life now, would you be the kind of person that I value to get me to the next level? Now, that's me. That's my frame.
Right.
Maybe that's not your frame if you're watching or listening, but it's important to get clear on what your frame is.
Right.
Why are your friends in your life? Honestly, if you can't answer that question, or your answer is because they always have been, that might now... If they always have been, is you saying they're super loyal and they've always been there for me, that's one thing.
Right.
But if it's because these are the people I know...
And you're uncomfortable in other rooms, yeah.
This is the high school, the college, these are the people from my town.
Here's a interesting thing. You know how there's that saying of if you're not growing, you're dying? In all honesty, if a plant isn't growing, it's dying. If a business isn't growing, it's dying. If a person isn't growing, they're dying. You're either getting healthier or you're getting less healthy. You're either getting smarter or not. And so I'll just use Emilia and I as an example. This is an intimate relationship, and this is who I intend to have as my future wife, but it applies to all relationships. Emilia and I, at all times, 24/7, 365, are either growing together or we are growing apart. At all times. I do think it comes down to, if you're growing apart, try to figure out why that is. Maybe it's supposed to be that way. Maybe it's because I want you to let's just make this super practical. If Kevin and I are in Worcester right now, and his goal is to live in Florida, and my goal is to live in California, we're going to drive in our cars, and we're not going to end up in the same place. We can't end up in the same place. As a matter of fact, we can't drive together.
Right.
Unless we want to go all the way to California, drop me off, and then have Kevin drive an extra. I feel like
I'd do it.
I know. I appreciate you.
I'd do it.
I feel like that's what a lot of people are doing. If I said, "Hey, Kev, I really don't want to drive to California alone. Do you mind coming in the car with me? I know you don't like the music I listen to. Like, I know you don't love my car. My car sucks, in your opinion. But like, I love my car, and I love Led Zeppelin. Like, can we just listen to Led Zeppelin and go to California?"
Alan's melancholy playlist.
Right. And you're like, "Well, I don't really like California. I don't really like Led Zeppelin, and your car's a piece of junk, man. Like, I don't want to go with you, but I'll do it for you." Okay. Kevin's going to spend 5 days and nights in a car in an experience that he doesn't want to be in because he loves me. But that's not what's best for Kevin. when you could have just went to Florida, which is maybe your destiny. And I think that what's really important for everyone out there listening to understand is that if you're growing apart with somebody, maybe that's okay. Figure out why that is and then talk about it. Once you talk about it, it will either magnetize in or filter out. I really do believe that. And I think it's important for people to realize that.
And I know Alan's the same mind of this. I want you to have the best relationships you can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to have a friend because they've always been your friend. That's not good enough.
I know. It's really
like,
not.
And this is something we've said for a long time, like, I don't believe in settling. I don't want you to settle for your job or your relationships or your whatever it is. You shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to.
But you do have to if you decide to. If you decide, you know what, these people have been here for me, I don't want to hurt their feelings, just know maybe you're hurting your future. Now, again, I don't mean these people are bad. I'm not saying that. But at the end of the day, some people have more of the ethics, morals, values, behaviors, knowledge, habits. They have more of those that will help you get to your next level. It just is that way. If you guys valued arts and crafts, I'm not a good friend for you.
Honestly.
I'm just not, and that's fine. I'm okay with that.
I know.
And you should be too. If you guys value podcasting and maximizing your potential, I could be a really good friend to you. Alan could be a really good friend to you.
Yep.
If you value fitness, we could be good friends to you. If you value being good boyfriends, we could be good friends to you.
Right.
But if you don't value those things, we're just not swimming up the same stream, and that's okay.
Right. You wouldn't even be listening to this show if for arts and crafts.
If you're listening to the show, we probably would be good friends.
Exactly.
Honestly, that's a good...
Because this is who we are.
Right.
And this is what we believe. And
I want to give a tactic. I want to make sure we give a tactic.
Yeah, let's do it.
We got a couple minutes left. But, all right, this is what I told this person. I said, I would break it into 3 or 4 steps. First step, express your truth. This is the one thing that I regret not doing, is literally bringing it up and saying, hey, I feel like we're kind of drifting a little bit apart. I don't know what that means, but I do feel like the old version of Kevin is kind of evolving into this new person because I have a lot of new information about who I want to be in the future, right? My habits are changing. You can see that. The business is changing. All these things are changing. I wish I did that. Step 1, express your truth. Step 2, get a response. Step 3, give it time because you're going to have to give it time. And this is another thing. Make sure you act in accordance to the person you told them you are, you want to be. If you said like, hey, I'm not going to be partying anymore, and every time you see them, you're partying, that's not their fault. That's on you. You have to step up and take responsibility for the man or woman or whatever you identify as your future. Fire. You have to stand up for that future version of yourself. And then the last one, based on current evidence, make a decision. And I think it's...
And that decision can be reallocating time, not necessarily cutting it out completely.
You don't have to cut people out of your life.
Right.
You just have to understand, the question you should ask yourself is, what am I going to be getting from this interaction? Right? Sometimes, when Taryn and I watch a movie, I'm getting rest and relaxation with the person I love the most.
Right.
We're not necessarily masterminding on how to grow the podcast.
Right.
It's not always the case. Sometimes I go in with a different intention. She goes in with a different intention. I'm okay with that because this is the woman I love and she makes me a better person, right? You got to know that.
The very last thing I'll say before we go here, I'm going to talk to you right now about a client and dear friend who has been having a really hard time being misunderstood by her family. And all of us are probably going through that to some extent this, in 2020 and COVID and all that. But this person basically said they just don't understand me. Like they're never going to understand me. They're never going to get it. And I've been guilty of saying this too. So I'm completely in the same boat there. But what I said is, you're crying right now on the phone with me. Have they ever seen you cry? And she's like, no, I could never cry in front of them. And I said, honestly, they have no idea how much they're hurting you. And this is something that I've seen happen many times. This is not uncommon. In coaching people, this is a common denominator. Mixed messaging. This person is crying to me. Their family has no idea they are causing her massive pain. Why? Because she won't cry with them. they don't know her truth. And if they did, I guarantee you that they would change because they don't want to hurt you. And that's the one thing I want to make sure people end with is I was on the phone last night with a different person who isn't a client, but a dear friend. And she was talking about this issue she was having with this person she was coaching with. And she was afraid to tell him the truth about the way she feels. And I said, imagine I'm this person. And I was really going to hear you. And I was really going to understand what you're about to say. What would you tell me? Without fear, just full vulnerability, full courage. Like, no matter what happens, you're just going to say the truth and just deal with whatever happens. And assume I'm going to really understand you. Okay, she said it, and I said, have you ever brought that to that person? And she's like, no. And I said, if you show that person your truth and your vulnerability and how much they're unintentionally hurting you, they will hear you. That is the one thing I want to get across in this episode is that you might be hurting behind the scenes, but the people that are hurting you, they don't know they're hurting you. Therefore, they don't know to change or what needs to change or how to be. They don't want to hurt you. Most likely, they might if they're terrible people, but they probably don't. In these two scenarios, those people do not want to hurt you. They have no idea they're hurting you. Why? Because you're telling me and you're never telling them, and we're all guilty of that. The moment that I showed my mom, my pain, she immediately was like, oh my God, and she was understanding because she had no idea that she was hurting me. And I'm nothing against my mom, just all of this is universal in all relationships. If you're being hurt unintentionally by someone you love, a friend, a family member, an intimate partner, you have to have the courage to show them that pain so that they understand you and want to change.
Fire. It's brave too. It's courage. I've had a lot of people tell me stuff in my DMs that they've never told anybody else. I can give you some advice, but my advice is going to be very similar to like, well, telling me is great, and I think it's a great first step.
Right.
I think it's practice for the actual dance.
Right.
Like, that's the dance. My goodness, this is a fire episode.
It really was good.
Fire episode. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking to start a podcast in 2021, if you already have a show, you want to grow it, you want to monetize it, get good guests, become a better speaker, whatever it is, reach out to me. I have been doing a lot more consultations lately, which I absolutely love doing. I bring the energy like I bring on here. And literally, if you want to start a show, we do an hour consultation. I will literally set up your entire podcast for you. So you will technically have a podcast at the end of that hour. Reach out at Never Quit Kid, Kevin at nextleveluniverse.com.
Kevin has planted his flag on helping people start, grow, and monetize podcasts. I have planted my flag in helping entrepreneurs start, grow, and monetize businesses. If you want to make more money, if you want to start a business, if you have a business you want to scale, especially if you want to scale it online, I'm your guy. Also, Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every single Monday. Yep. No matter what.
Never.
Next week is week 41. We jump on the mics and we give a lot of tangible, tactical, strategic lessons, health, wealth, and love. The more important part of those trainings is the people you're going to meet in those rooms. We have everybody put their Instagram handles in. Networking with like-minded people is going to help your future, especially if you're disconnecting from old friends and want new ones. That's the place to do it. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Monday. Next Level Masterminds.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this. And as always, we do not have fans. We have family. We love you, and we will see you on the next one.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.